gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you would please, if you're seated, please rise and join us with the pledge of invocation.
Lord, please bless us tonight as we make decisions for the betterment of our community. And please bless those serving here and abroad in our military, and be with our first responders as they protect us and keep us safe. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Doherty.
Here.
Councilmember DeMott. Here. Councilmember Golding. Here. Councilmember Hoffman. Here. Councilmember Nichols.
Here.
Councilmember Vogelsang.
Here.
Mayor Latham.
Here. Still catching up, sorry. Moving on to agenda item 18-223.
I move to approve the regular council meeting minutes for the meeting held December 3rd, 2018.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By your action, motion carries. Announcements? I got none. Mr. Doherty.
I'll just do a quick Merry Christmas for everybody coming up. This is our, pretty fast council meeting, so Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You guys need to quit bringing your cards here, folks. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to before we do courtesy of the floor, I'm going to ask the coach and the team of the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheerleading team to come forward to the dais, please.
Okay, coaches in the middle, and hey guys, congratulations. Okay, I'm gonna sneak out of here, I got trapped in here. Okay, I'm on this side, and first of you down.
Whereas the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheer team won 7th place at the Junior Pee Wee Pop Warner National Championship in Orlando, Florida in December 2017. And whereas the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheer team won 2nd place at the Diamond Finale cheer competition in Jacksonville, Florida in May 2018. Whereas the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheer team won 1st place, best overall in the Pee Wee division, Level 1 and Level 2, and the highest score at the Pop Warner First Coast Conference competition in Jacksonville, Florida on October 14, 2018. And whereas the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheer team won 1st place and received the highest stud score for this session at the Pop Warner Southeast Regional Championship in Orlando, Florida on November 23, 2018. And whereas the Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee cheer team competed at the Pop Warner Nationals held in Orlando, Florida at the ESPN Wide World of Sports on December 4, 2018 and became the national championships. And whereas cheerleaders Emma Beasley, Kiera Bonner, Tristan Capps, Lyric Carter, Keelan Kokorin, Kylie Schultz, Lexi Springer, Gazelle Torellaba, Jayla Wilker, Kayla Yarbrough Prepon, and the head coach Holly West, assistant coaches Kristen Capps, Sherry Springer, Jamie Mazzell, student coach Emily Tu, team mom Chelsea Schultz, and Jacks Beach cheer coordinator Christy Hancock are recognized for their outstanding accomplishments. Now therefore, I, William C. Latham, Mayor of the City of Jacksonville Beach, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim December 17, 2018 as Jacksonville Beach Pop Warner Pee Wee Cheerleading Day.
In case you want to get a photo op. Okay. Girls, congratulations.
Okay, moving on to courtesy of the floor. Got a few here that are not tied to an agenda item. We'll start with Stuart Lackey.
Thank you for being first.
Stuart, if you would, please. That's okay. If you would, start with your name and your address. And
Stuart Lackey, 22nd Avenue South, 210, Apartment A, 22nd Avenue South, and I'm representing tonight Aqua East Surf Shop.
Thank you.
This will be our third year in a row that we have done the Aqua East Grom Fest. And if you're not sure what a Grom is a 17 or under that performs in extreme events, extreme sports like surfing, wakeboarding, stuff like that. So this is kind of our video from a previous year. This is actually a couple years ago, and we do the skate park. We've done it for the last year. You can play it at South Beach Skate Park. Thank you for watching. The reason I'm here today is we've done the event the last 2 years at the South Beach Skate Park, and they've asked us not to do it again for the following years, and we weren't sure why. So we met with Jason, we met with Ms. Butler, and just kind of like talked about it, and there really wasn't like a good reason on why we couldn't do it. We don't close the park at all. The park remains open. We just come out, we do a skate park cleanup, and so Dan's gives us some stuff. Mellow Mushroom is free pizza. So it's a community event, it's not closed, and so we met with the director last week, and he was like, hey, they decided not to be able to open the skate park to events. And so we would love to do it. Again, this will be our third year. We've had people come up from New Smyrna Beach, from Plant City, from Orlando. We have them come from all over, and it's grown 18% from the first year. It's the second year, we're working on our third year. We kind of have to know the venue so that we can put it in our advertising and make it happen. We would love to do it in Jacksonville Beach. We don't want to move it from Jacksonville Beach. It's amazing. It's the only one in the country. It's the only surf, skate, and wake event. We have access to all of it here in Jacksonville. You just don't have places. So we'd love to keep it here. It's kid focused. There's no profit in it. Aqua East pays for the stuff. The prize money comes from sponsors. It costs Aqua East to put it on, so there's no profit in it. I talked to both of them. They said they would fine show you the budget. If show you the whole thing. We would just like to do it again.
What's the dates again?
We do it in October. This year, we're going to do it the 11th, 12th, and 13th. The Friday night is the skate event, the Saturday is the surfing, and Sunday is the wakeboarding.
Okay. Thanks, Stuart. We don't, we're not going to address specific items in the council tonight in this forum, but we'll discuss it with staff and
Perfect.
see what the issues are. Okay?
Thank you so much. We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Have a good day. Sarah Bryan, Sarah, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Sure. Sarah Bryan, 403 12th Avenue South, aka Ground Zero. Hello again. I wanted to give a brief follow-up on some things that I brought to the council members' attention on November 19th. You'll see some photos that I handed out concerning the garbage and also children that are kind of running around. Those are for your record. I have obviously the originals. Just to bring up to speed, we had a enlightening, I guess you'd say, private meeting with the contractors, the city, the mayor was present as well, and my other neighbors on December 5th. Similar to the council meeting on the 19th, I brought the trash issue up to the Petticoat and Schmidt representatives. I didn't have a full bag of garbage with me like I did previously, but I basically gave them the gist of it, that the area at the pond that is closed, specifically only accessible to the construction guys, has become a dumping ground for their cups, water bottles, and trash. He tried to argue that this was not from them. However, the same off-brand water bottles and cups from the gas station that they all drink out of every day seems to continually appear. During the recent torrential downpours that we had, the pond once again rose above the bulkhead, causing all the trash to float freely outside of the barricade. Once the pond receded, it left a huge garbage ring around the entire pond. Nobody seems to really care, so while we were walking our dog, my boyfriend and I took the liberty of picking it all up. You'll see in the photos the multiple bags of garbage I found. The majority of them are the water bottles and these cups from the gas station. In the 7 years that I've lived at my home, it was always a beautiful pond. There's never been garbage like this, ever. And Petticoat Schmidt is directly to blame for this, and nobody will take responsibility. My pleas on December 5th to the person that's responsible, it fell on deaf ears. Couldn't really emphasize just how much garbage there is, so I printed off those photos. And just today when I got home, there was another blue cup sitting right on the barricade next to my mailbox. Also, while I'm on the topic of photos, two of the kids that are running around on the job site, they were just recently out there. I kind of heard kids' voices, and I'm like, you don't hear it over there anymore. Went on my balcony and I took the photos for you guys. Minor housekeeping. Since we've had considerable rain, the dust bowl of our driveway, it gets a nice washing, which helps to expose all the nails and the tie-offs that I mentioned. I collected these just this weekend from directly in front of our driveway. Just as an aside, I brought this up to the Petticoat Schmidt's attention, some of the previous ones we collected. However, being that he didn't really seem to be the type of guy that actually walked job sites, he had no idea where they were from, quote unquote. But again, I've lived in my home 7 years. We've never had this stuff regularly. I also wanted to point out that during our private meeting, myself along with my other neighbors requested copies of any and all of the formal notifications on this 2-year project and any documentation that went out to the residents in advance. This request was made on December 5th. We've yet to receive the information. I did get some stuff that was requested. However, we're still waiting on the particular notifications. Thank you for your time. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, ma'am. You too. Gerhard Paytown. Gerhard, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Gerhard Paytown, 725 Bonnier Circle, Jack's Beach. First of all, very happy holidays to everybody and to everybody here in the audience. I wanted to just quickly address a concern that I have. After attending quite a number of Board of Adjustment meetings, it seems like every request that comes in for additional lot coverage increases is basically approved. Exceeding the 35% that the city has as its basic standard. My concern is, how are we addressing the back end of that, which is the stormwater management conditions that go along with that? Our typical storm event is based on a certain year's storm plus assumptions as to lot coverage. And if we keep exceeding it, we're just exacerbating the flooding conditions that we have within the city right now. I've tried to address this with the Board of Adjustments. They said that it wasn't their issue. They would just look at individual cases, and that's all they're concerned about. They said I should address it with City Council, one of the reasons why I'm here this evening. But they also said that Public Works is well aware of the conditions, and they are taking care of it. Subsequent conversations with Public Works indicated that they're not aware of the increases in lot coverages and the potential impact it has to the overall stormwater management system we have within the city. So my suggestion just is, I think we need to sit down and really take a hard look at what we're doing from a planning standpoint and how we're managing it through our stormwater management system, and that we're assuring ourselves that we're not exacerbating flooding conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'll make sure somebody contacts you so that we can talk specifics about or share the specifics with you. Robert O'Hara. Mr. O'Hara, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Robert O'Hara, 524 13th Avenue North in Jacksonville Beach. And in general, I just want to talk about utility contractors and utility apparatus in the neighborhood, both for-profit and by the city. And basically, we just had the contractors out laying broadband in the neighborhood. And I'm just really, I wonder how much oversight and regulation the city has on the projects when there's contractors out there. It seems like they're done, and there's been a lot left behind. Those cable kind of orange flags are all over the neighborhood, dotted all over the neighborhood. So I don't know if that's our responsibility to clean that up, or their responsibility to clean it up. Additionally, these kind of box apparatus things that do all the connectors for the phone companies and the media companies, you know, they seem to not ever go away. We've gotten more in now with this job. And, you know, I just wonder what the responsibility for the for-profit companies, AT&T, whoever, Verizon, Infinity, or Xfinity, what their responsibilities are, because those towers and those little boxes that just keep populating, if you take a look on our street, you know, some of them are shabby. I wonder what the requirements are of them if they're obsolete, if some of the towers are not used that have been in there for 20 years and nobody's using landline phones anymore. So is there a responsibility for the for-profit companies to maintain them, take them out, keep them in condition? It doesn't, you know, appear that way. Then I wonder also, when the cable companies run lines from these boxes to your home, if they're required to bury the lines. Because when I've asked them to do it, they say, I'm just a tech, you know, that's somebody else's job. And we've got lines in the yard that haven't been buried for a good deal of time, over a year. And then lastly, just in general, this one's a little bit older, but it does speak to kind of some inefficiencies and no oversight. That I have a duplex, and when we upgraded the water meters on our properties, our water meters for the duplex sit side by side, and that was contracted, that work. And it took 2 different contractors to do that one property. As I talked to the one contractor who was there, I said, you're going to get the other one? And he said, no, that's on somebody else's list. So obviously there's no oversight for efficiency, and that's costly. So, and it was supposed to be an upgrade or updated equipment. And what was used in our case, and I can't speak for anybody else, and I was out there with the guy doing it, were the covers on these things were used covers that were cracked, and, you know, not an update at all, and in pretty shabby condition. And at this point, one of them has completely broken, and, you know, opened up a hole in the ground where your meter is. So it's a safety concern. And so just in general, and especially the for-profit companies, I mean, I just wonder what kind of regulation we have. You get contractors in the neighborhood, and I know that there's probably a management process where there's oversight, but I'm talking about on-site work in our neighborhoods, digging in our yards.
Okay.
You know, who's paying attention?
I'll have someone contact you from
Thank
the
you.
city. Thank you, sir.
Happy holidays.
You too, sir. Ken Marsh. Ken, if you can forward to us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Ken Marsh, 2011 Gale Avenue. First of all, congratulations and welcome to the new council members. I'm excited. I know you're excited and energized going into the new year. As you know, I talk about the downtown a lot, probably 99% of the time. I sent out last week a list of potential talking items that you may want to address whenever you come up to this joint meeting with the CRA and the council. Bill, I'm not sure whether you wanted it to be a one-shot deal on the height limit or an ongoing process. If it's on, Keith, as you alluded to in the workshop, there's a whole host of things that can be discussed with the CRA. And out of that list, that was not an all-inclusive list. What I hope you all gathered from that is that you've probably got 2 years worth of discussion points at least. What I do hope becomes a priority out of that list, though, is somewhere answering the question, what do we want to be? What does the downtown want to be when it grows up? That's what the 2007 vision plan was supposed to do. Specifically, I hope a discussion will happen is, does it still have relevance? And is Latham Park Plaza, as it relates to mixed use, is that still on the table? Is the Pier Park or the Pier Plaza with the mixed use, is that still on the table? Is the garages that were looked at as alternatives once the mixed use was in, is that on the table? So revisiting all of those and trying to determine what is this town going to look like in the upcoming years. Because clearly, if we don't know where we're going, if you all are not unified on where we're going, I can assure you we're not going to get there. Okay? So I do hope, at a minimum, in addition to the height, that we're also looking at other topics and bringing the 2007 vision plan into that topic discussion. Before I close, though, I would, in the previous workshop and the discussion on parking, I don't know if there is a mechanism on these pay stations to show whether the parking lot is full, but if there is not, where the live people are an advantage to us, is they tell us that the parking lot is full. If that's not there, I can assure you, we're going to have a choke point with people going into these lots, and they're going to be full. So I would encourage you to find out if there is some mechanism to show us or the residents that it is full. Thank you very much. Have a great holiday.
Thanks, Ken. You too. Moving on to agenda item 18224, please.
I move to accept the monthly financial reports for the month of November 2018.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. And moving on to 18225.
I move to approve adding a second full-time animal control officer in the police department as detailed in a memo dated December 10th, 2018.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Nelson?
We currently, in the city, have one full-time animal control officer. That animal control officer handles all animal-related calls for service, also patrols the beach to enforce animal regulations, and manages the care and feeding of all the animals that are housed at the city's animal control facility. Our animal control officer works 2 weekends per month, On her off weekends, the City of Jacksonville Animal Control provides assistance with service calls. It's important to note that those calls are not always answered in a timely manner. Upon return to work, the Animal Control Officer then follows up with all calls that were received while she was out. Also on her days off, the Citizen Police Academy Alumni Association volunteers take care of the animals housed at Animal Control. If a volunteer is not available, our patrol officers must assume animal control officer duties. We are proposing to add one full-time animal control officer in addition to the one that is currently on staff to provide increased coverage for the enforcement of animal regulations in the beach and in other areas, and to relieve our patrol officers of additional duties associated with the animal control officer position. Costs associated in the first year with adding the new position include total vehicle and equipment cost of $38,120 and salary and benefits of $52,289 for a total estimated cost in the first year of $90,409. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion from the council? Ms. Golden?
I have some questions. Are we still going to be utilizing volunteers?
Yes, Chief Julie, if you would like.
Yes, we fully intend to continue to utilize volunteers to augment the full-time personnel, and they're extremely valuable to us. I never want to cut back on the number of volunteers, but it's important that we have a schedule set up so that we can do the actual beach enforcement, especially since those ordinance changes are taking place, and more so than just the animal care with the volunteers and animal control. We have animal investigations we have to do all the time, and the officers have to do those, patrol officers have to do those now when Kelsey's not available, so they would augment and take away from those officers having to do those additional duties.
Now, when we post this job, are we looking for someone who has the Florida Animal Control Association certification?
We would prefer it, but it's not a requirement. We would get the certifications for anyone that wants that position and is qualified. We'll work with them to get the certifications. It's just like any other position that requires certifications. We're going to make sure that the employees have it. So,
Okay.
but it's not always something we're going to get the luxury of having a lot of people apply that would hold those certifications. So.
Okay. And then one other question, do you know how many calls Jacksonville has supported us?
Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, because it said the city of Jacksonville does provide assistance.
Well,
Do you know how many calls they have provided assistance
No,
for?
I don't, because that's the whole problem. That's what that caveat was there. It's not timely. And the level of service expectation in our city is very, very different than it is in the city of Jacksonville, especially for animal control. When you have animal control from Jacksonville respond, and I'm not being flippant, but you almost need a calendar, not a watch, because it's not going to be that day. You'll be lucky if it's within 3 to 5 days, and they'll tell you that outright. That's not the level of service that we in our city have an expectation for at any level, let alone with the problem that somebody might be having with animal control. But they will respond eventually, but they're going to respond with a stray dog 3 days later is absolutely a waste of time from my perspective.
I will say that I have volunteered some at the animal control facility, and I do see that we have a need for an additional animal control officer, so this is something I'm very willing to support.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Vogelsang.
Chief, will this officer also handle calls for service relating to the leash rule?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what, obviously we expanded that this year, and I think it's important to have this extra individual to free up your police officers from responding to those calls.
That's one of the reasons we heard your call when you mentioned that, because I think you were the ones that suggested we need additional enforcement down there. And it's we can do that now, I believe.
Thank you.
Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a great start. I mean, there's just too much beach and too many hours out there for one person to do, and she's done a great job. You know, it's good to have a second person who's fully trained and capable of this important work. To your point about Jacksonville, I've had people say they called and they didn't even get a call back whether it be 3 days later or 5 or a week or whatever. So, while we appreciate their effort, I think in all reality that it was kind of defunct. So it's our responsibility. I think this is the right way of going about it, by adding a full-time professional. And I, like my colleagues, fully support this.
I would like to add one thing, if I may, Mayor. Sure. Just for the record, through the interlocal agreement, Jacksonville is actually required to provide animal control for the city of Jacksonville Beach. The level of service becomes the question. And our citizens, our customers have a much higher level of service expectation from the city of Jacksonville Beach. And that's one of the reasons that years and years ago we enacted our own animal control officer. And in order to maintain that level of service with the increased number of calls and the amount of responsibility now and again with changes in the leash law down the beach, it makes it much more difficult for us to even be able to answer all those calls ourselves. So we don't want our service level to change to our citizens. That's one of the reasons we're going this route, although Jacksonville is technically responsible for it.
Thanks, Chief. Ms. Hoffman?
Just a side note, I keep hearing mention of the leash law. We didn't change the leash law. Dogs are still required to be on a leash at all times. We just expanded the off-season hours that dogs can go on the beach.
Consider yourself correct, Chief.
Twice today. You are right, Ms. Hoffman.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Demott?
Yes.
Councilmember Golding?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang?
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty?
Yes.
Mayor Latham?
Yes. Madam Clerk, please read ordinance number 2018-8114, second reading, public hearing by title only, please.
An ordinance to amend an ordinance enacting and establishing a comprehensive land development regulation and official zoning map for the incorporated area of the city of Jacksonville Beach, Florida, as authorized by Chapter 163.3202 statute, Florida statutes, by amending Article 7, zoning districts, Division 2, Section 34-344, commercial service, CS, Paragraph B, permitted uses, to add newspaper and magazine publishing as new subparagraph 22, and amending Section 34-344, commercial service, CS, Paragraph D, conditional uses, to add microbrewery and bar, lounge, nightclub, tavern, or other drinking establishment as new subparagraphs 6 and 7 respectively, and to repeal ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and for other purposes.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to take a minute to read a few things to the public here. This ordinance for the amendment of the Land Development Code is before this council for public hearing and consideration on its second reading. Under the laws of the state of Florida, ordinances which change the actual list of the permitted, conditional, or prohibited uses within a zoning category is a quasi-legislative proceeding. Quasi-legislative proceeding means that the governing body is acting in its rule-making capacity. It's the duty of the council to arrive at sound decisions regarding the use of property within the city. This includes receiving citizen input regarding the proposed uses within the zoning category. The application has been reviewed by Staff and Planning Commission for consistency of other portions of the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan. The council may hear from all interested parties in the legislative determination of an amendment to the text of the Land Development Code. The council's decision on the text amendment application is based on the criteria set forth in Section 34-211 of the Land Development Code. Each member of the council has been provided a copy of this criteria. I'm now going to open the public hearing to ordinance number 2018-8114. First, we're going to start with, and I know that there's several people here that are interested potentially in expressing their opinion that have not submitted a speaker card. If you've submitted a speaker card, I'll call you by name, but you'll also have an opportunity to step up and speak before or against this, in opposition of this, without a speaker card, okay? So, at this point, we're going to start, we've already had, this is the second reading, we've already had an explanation from the CEO and the applicant himself. So we're going to start with those in favor of the application. And first card I have is Mr. Terry Deloach. Terry, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Terry Deloach, 405 32nd Avenue South, Jacksonville Beach. Mr. Mayor, City Manager, members of the City Council, I want to thank you for this, for the support you showed this amendment in the last meeting with a unanimous vote, and a lot of good reasons for that unanimous vote. What we have now is we have a zoning that is changing because zoning has to change. Mr. Keith Doherty summed it up really well when he said it's organic. We didn't know what a tasting room was 10 years ago. And now you've got states, cities that have tours, and they're very proud of this new development. So basically, and that's just a small part of what the gentlemen want to do in this space. A small part. They want to offer coffee, they're running a business, they're marketing business. So let's not get the wrong impression that that's what this is. It's simply a small fraction of what they're trying to accomplish here with retail and just a space. Again, on Cheddar Avenue, which, as we know, could use a little shining light on that street to kind of help it along. Nothing has changed since the last meeting. Nothing at all has changed since the last meeting where you voted unanimously for it. And we all have to keep in mind, including the audience, that this zoning change will still require a conditional use. So if this goes through tonight, anybody that wants to do anything in this zoned area with this new zoning will still have to come back to the city and still have to meet your requirements, and you will be allowed to put conditions, et cetera, on it. I support the zoning change and would appreciate if you would approve it again like you did just 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deloach. Mike Sasser. Mike, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Hello, Mike Sasser, 208 Oceanwood Drive. I just wanted to echo my thoughts that I spoke over the past couple of meetings.
Excuse me, Mr. Sasser, just want to clarify for the record, what city?
Neptune Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
That I support this plan, and I just want to say thank you guys for all your time throughout the past couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Matt Shaw. Matt, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
I checked the box not to speak. I thought I did anyway.
You did. I apologize. Aaron Meisenheimer. Aaron, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. Aaron Meisenheimer, 1026 Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I'm here in support of this ordinance or zoning amendment, and I'm one of the partners, but I've also been intimately involved in the search for a commercial space that fits all of our needs out here in Jacksonville Beach for the last 2 years. I mentioned this last time, I'll say it again, just don't take too much of your time, but it's been an exhaustive search. We finally found a perfect place, so hopefully you can help us with this small text this week and help us get the space we're looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jay Dodson. Jay, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thanks, Jay Dodson, 1626 Park Terrace West, Lundy Beach, Florida. Just want to reiterate what we talked about last week, and super excited about this project, and thanks for all y'all's kind words about our business. We have a lot of great people who work really hard, and we're excited to continue that in Jacksonville Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. And those are the only cards I have for anybody that's in support of this amendment. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward that's in support? I've got a card. Let me read the cards of the people that don't want to speak, but they want to relay their support. I need a bigger desk.
Better glasses.
Yeah, better contacts. Apologize for the delay, folks. There we go. Okay, Erica Nabunski, if you just raise your hand if you're here. These are the people that are expressing support that would not like to address the council. Kira Sanchez, thank you. Casey Bagby, is that correct? Bagby, Casey?
Should be early.
Okay. Scott Watley. Scott Watley. Cassandra Ashburn. Jeffrey DeAngelis. Thank you, sir. Nicole Parishner. Thank you. Sorry about that. And Matt Shaw. Okay, thank you. So are there any others that want to speak in favor?
Is there a way the applicant can speak? I didn't know I was supposed to.
You're welcome to come up as well. It's not called for in the second reading, but
Okay.
you're welcome to come up.
That'd be all right. That'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for the time. I just wanted to kind of briefly...
I need you to start with your name.
Sorry about that. My name is Ty Wallace, and my address is 709 4th Avenue North, Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I just wanted to thank you all for the time, and I just want to consolidate kind of my notes. I know we already went over this, and I appreciate the unanimous vote 2 weeks ago. But I just want to kind of reiterate some of the points quickly. As you know, or some in the audience that may be new here tonight that didn't join 2 weeks ago, we're a passionate local group with our flagship projects being Boyd Magazine, Edible Magazine, and Bold Brands, which is our marketing agency. Boyd Magazine is our lifestyle culture publication, and Edibles are our Northeast Florida food culture magazine. Our current office space is up for lease, and we need more room to grow. As my previous partner mentioned, we've been looking tediously over the past 2 years, and we've had no luck. So by conditional use, we are requesting to add a brewery, tasting room, magazine publishing to the Shedder location uses. It is not our intent to get another late night drinking establishment planning on closing at 10 p.m. for most nights, and we definitely do not want to be a nightclub. That's how we're grouped with the code text amendment. It gets confusing, so I just want to clarify that. So with this new space, we plan to expand our business, plan to launch our area's first beer-focused channel, media channel, which our flagship product will be a magazine, which will be added to our publishing portfolio. We feel that creating the beer on-site is an integral part to ensure authenticity and gives us a unique competitive edge in the market. Outside of craft beer, we also plan on roasting coffee, using our facility as a place to collaborate, share ideas, and strengthen our bond with the community that our media channels engage with daily. If approved, we pledge to invest $500,000 in the property, with property improvements, along with keeping our 4 businesses doing $1.6 million in gross combined revenue within Jacksonville Beach city limits for years to come. In closing, we want nothing more than this location to be a move to add to the unique and cultural addition to the diverse fabric of Jacksonville Beach, something we're all proud of and want to share with our friends and family, including my own. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ty. Appreciate it. Okay, at this point, we're going to shift to those who are opposed. I've got a few cards here, and I've got one that I'm not sure if this is in support or opposed because it's not checked, but Gregory Austin. Mr. Austin, if you come forward, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Gregory Austin, and we use our church address of 119 6th Street South. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, I oppose because we're on 6th Street, 6th and 1st Avenue. And I'm dealing with the lounge, the bar, and the tavern. And that's a little too close to my church. I have children. When we came to the church, from the beginning, we had crack house on one side, nightclub on one side, prostitute house down the street. And we had to deal with all of those things. So to see this come back, they would not even come to our church. Locksmith would not come to our church unless we had a police escort. So it was danger in that area. So if you bring that kind of taste, even though they're tasting, they may taste a little bit more than you want them to taste, okay? So the tasting, it may not be good for the area, okay? Because you may bring something back that you got rid of. And we work with the police department also with this. We all work together. So to see something come back when you work so hard for something and you see something come back, you know, you're not going to have a good thing. It's not a good thing that's going to come. Something bad is going to come. If you notice, if this was once and now it's slipping back, you must understand the danger is also going to slip back with it. And so we have to protect our children, our neighborhoods. We have to think about that. We have to, and I don't know how much more time I have, okay? But I want you to consider what you're doing, you know, because we're considering not just our church, it's the neighborhood, it's the community. And you can't bring back what you got rid of, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Austin, appreciate it. James Sorrell. Jim, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Jim Sorrell, 1410 Pinewood Road, Jacksonville Beach. Just want to clarify what I said first, the first reading, is the fact that I'm not opposed to this microbrewery moving in. I'm opposed to how you want to allow it to be instituted into this zoning. This zoning is a commercial services area. It's not going to be a pretty area, but it provides us the services that all our citizens do need. So it's not going to be pretty, but it is a necessary item. What I'm opposed to is not this microbrewery, but I believe it can go in there if it's stated properly. But I don't like is the fact that I said before is that you're trying to put in, that you will put in bar, lounge, nightclub, tavern, or other drinking establishments. We have this in C1 and C2, and there's abuses all the time because of the fact when you put that in there, it's all encompassing. Once they get their conditional use, they can go in, as I gave you the example, as a package store, and the next week they become a bar. So I believe that not only in this, but in C1, C2, you should change that to each individual category. In this particular case, you do have a category that you can put it in. It's microbrewery. Strike that, put microbreweries in there. Microbreweries are already allowed in C1 and C2. So if you put that in there, they can go in and it'll be no problem. And the gentleman before me won't have to worry about bars and lounges, nightclubs moving into the area. But if we don't do this, then what you're going to do is you're going to have the possible repercussions that we have now in C1 and C2, where there are abuses. Not all people, sounds like these people are straight up people and that all they want is a microbrewery, but do please consider that there are a lot of people out there that are humans and they want to take advantage any way they possibly can. And you have to put in consideration too, you say, well, you have to put this in the alcohol to meet the alcohol. No. All you're saying is by telling us that at being a microbrewery, the state controls the alcohol portion. They'll tell them what they can and can't do, and part of the Florida statutes does include a tasting room. The only thing you may want to do there is the size of the tasting room, because they say they want 800, start there. Then you can do a conditional use later. But as far as the conditional uses are concerned, having attended a lot of these meetings, the conditional uses are rarely instituted. But when they are instituted, they're almost impossible to enforce because there's no actual conditional use book that the code enforcement officer can go by to where they know that what conditional uses have been granted to each business. So in this particular case, I'm not saying not to deny the microbrewery, but I believe you have to strike the bar, lounge, nightclub category. Put in microbreweries like you do in C1, C2. Everybody's happy and abuses should not happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Georgia Williams. Ms. Williams, if you come forward, give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, ma'am. A little bit dusty there.
I'm a little bit short too. My name is Georgia Williams. I live at 522 2nd Avenue South in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I've been living here for over 40-some years, and when I first moved here, it was a very bad place to live in. And I'm listening to you all speak about this and that, and a lot of the things I really truly cannot plug into, but I can plug into where I've seen things like when you come out, it can look clean and it can look nice, but you can't control everyone what they're going to do, because most people have a habit, and the habit is getting high, or getting high as they can get. And it's never getting high as you can get. It's just, can you control what you're going to bring in before it gets here? And what we're trying to do is keep down what we done got rid of. And if we bring it back, we will not be able to control it, because we the one welcoming it back into the neighborhood. We don't want that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is there anybody else opposing the ordinance that would like to come forward and speak? Going once, going twice. Good evening, ma'am. If you give us your name and address so that the clerk can record it, then we'll go ahead and give you
To
3 minutes.
everyone, my name is Pamela Brown. I live at 8955 Monroe Avenue, Jacksonville, Florida. But I go to church at Good Samaritan Life Changing Ministry at 119 6th Street South. Before I got there, I heard so much things going on in the neighborhood down here, because again, I live in Jacksonville, Florida. But when people come by the church and they see us out there, we fellowship of getting along the community, of doing things to enhance the community, they always say, hey, it used to be a bar and club here. They always ride by and say, thank you, that they cleaned the neighborhood up. So we try to clean up something. Why fix something if it's not broken? If you've done away with something, why bring it back? Again, everybody can control their habit, you know, and we working with the community, our churches. We even work with the mission house. And that's another thing, you know, we try to, I'm looking at, wow, they want to get an ordinance for a bar. Can't come up with an ordinance for a homeless shelter. But we'll feed them, but don't want a homeless shelter. So we're looking at the community as a whole. So we're reaching out, not just at our church, we're reaching out all even down to the beach. That's our goal coming into 2019. But to see something that you've taken away, to bring it back, it can destroy our neighborhood. Till it'll be fighting for people to even want to come fellowship or worship. My thing is, if you clean the neighborhood up, you got your officer kind of things under control. Everything's not perfect, not all the way under control, but it's good since I come from the north side all the way down to the beach. So far it's been good. So I would love to remain to be good down here. So if you've done a way to clean it up, you did a good job. Appreciate you since I've been here for the past 2 years going on 4.
Thank you,
So,
ma'am.
thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Is this in opposition, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Please come forward, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
736 7th Avenue North, Greg Burkhart, also on Rockaway Garden Center, 510 Shutter Ave. And I would say I would be in opposition if this is after 10 o'clock. I'm new to understanding the particulars of this, but as a business owner, literally 2 doors down, I agree with some of the community that's in opposition in that we do need to do something to clean it up, but also hearing 10 o'clock, $5 million, I can firsthand attest to the transient population between the Mission House and Publix. Something needs to be done. Jimmy Hula's went out, there's literally 5 to 10 homeless sleeping there. Coming from my perspective, 10 years ago, and this is our 10th anniversary, it was vacated ground when we took it over. Tumbleweeds, beer, drugs, everything else going on there. So, yes, I am opposed if we're going to take this to a nightclub to 2 o'clock, because I understand the community aspect of it. But I also think, how else are we going to improve this? I've had the opportunity to do business with some of the people that have brought forward a for vote for this and are going to start this, and I just think this is silly. Both sides, the community, it could be a win-win. So, within reason, it should be a go. If we look at it as a nightclub till 2 in the morning, I can agree to that too, or oppose that. But this to me is a no-brainer as a business owner 2 doors down.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any other in opposition that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. If you would please come forward, give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Dorothy Austin, address 119 6th Street South, Jacksonville Beach. We're looking to improve the area. We want to improve the area, but with our ministry being so close to the area that they want to improve, bringing in liquor will not help us. It will hinder the area. And our opposed to this is the church being so close to the area. I think it's a 500 feet thing where it has to be. And we have been here since 1988, and when we came, the area was really terrible. But with the help of the police department and the help of people respecting the ministry, we have gotten much, much better. There was a time the pizza man wouldn't even come down the area. There was a time when people couldn't walk their dogs. Now you see people walking their dogs. Now the area is integrated. We have all kind of people living around the church, black, white, living together. And it has improved so much. But I feel if you bring back the alcohol so close to the ministry, it will defeat the things that we've already have done and already we're trying to do. But we're for the beach being improved. We want this beach to be a top-notch place for people to come and enjoy themselves. But putting this right so close to the church, we just don't agree with that part of it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else in opposition that would like to come forward? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. At this point, before requesting a motion on the ordinance, beginning with myself, each member of the council is requested to indicate for the record both the names of the person and the substance of any ex parte communications regarding this application. An ex parte communication refers to any meeting or discussion with a person or citizen who may have an interest in the decision which occurred outside of the public hearing process. For myself, I did get another email from Ty, and I did read it, Ty. It was pretty short, and it just said, I know you don't read my emails, but you can call me if you need any questions. And I also spoke with Sam Thomas. Sam is a retired Beaches Energy electrician foreman who is a conduit to the area, and he called and asked some questions about the ordinance, or proposed ordinance. So I spent some time with Sam. And I also walked the area with Chief Dooley. I don't think I have to report the staff, but just in case, I walked the area with Chief Dooley the day after our last meeting. So starting again with Mr. Nichols.
I received the original. I received the original email from Ty, and I believe I received a follow-up, very brief one, just saying if we had additional questions.
Thank you.
I received the same emails. Ty must be busy hitting the send button from Mr. Wallace, and it pertained to if we had any further questions, which I did not. So I didn't reply to it. So I will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I received email from Ty regarding if I had any questions. I did not respond.
Thank you, sir.
I also received an email from Ty, and I also did not respond. Sorry, Ty.
Ditto, I'm not feeling special anymore. I received the email from Ty asking if I had any more questions to contact him. I didn't reply. Terry Deloche contacted me via my husband on their morning sunrise walk. I didn't reply to him. And Mick DeRocha stopped by my house today to know his concerns about the change to the ordinance, and so I listened to his concerns.
Thank you, ma'am.
I too received the email from Ty asking if I had any questions. I did respond to just say I didn't have any questions and that I would see him tonight. And then I also, after the last meeting, I had asked the question about the church and whether the church was still in operation. And I did receive a text message from a resident, Shandy Thompson, who said that the church was still in operation. So that's the only other thing I got.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'm going to request a motion to approve the ordinance as read by title.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-8114, amending the Land Development Code, section 34-344, to add newspaper and magazine publishing to the list of permitted uses, and microbrewery and bar, nightclub, tavern, or other drinking establishment to the list of conditional uses in the Commercial Services CS zoning district, applicant Bold Brands.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, and before opening the floor to discussion or questions by the council, please be reminded that our decision will be based on the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, staff's report, the recommendation of the Planning Commission, and the public input for all hearings, at all hearings. Now I'm going to open the floor, and I'm also going to take the privilege to speak first, because I see all the lights going off. At the vote of the first reading, I voted in the affirmative and recommended anybody who was interested in opposing this to reach out and contact us. The next morning, I went out with Chief Dooley and went out to the property at 602 Shutter and walked around the property. The property is, as everybody here knows, a couple of blocks from the Mission House and just about 1 block exactly from public housing. I then reached out to Sam Thomas, told him what was coming up because I think it's important for both sides of the story to come forward. And Sam and I talked a little bit about the ordinance, what it meant to the community, and his concerns. I can't speak for Sam, but I can speak for myself. In 1976, I was a junior at Fletcher High School. I worked at Burger King number 8, 700 Beach Boulevard, which is now the closed Sonic. It was pretty bad. We were back, Shutter Avenue was behind us. It was dangerous. We had some employees get held up by a knife point when they went back to empty the garbage into the dumpster. And at some point we had to hire security so that we could walk in and out of the stores for a while. There was a club back then called, I think it was 600 Club. It was a long time ago. But that was kind of the nucleus of the problems that we had in that area of Pablo Beach. And I mean this with all respect, and if I sound like I'm disrespecting anybody, I don't, but back then we called it the Hill. And the Hill was a dangerous, dangerous place to be. There were shootings regularly, and there was a lot of problems. It was completely unsafe. If Void Magazine were to move out there, Ty, I'm fully in support of you guys coming out there. I'm fully in support of the microbrewery. My problem is the private or the tap room or tasting room. I'm going to address this to the city attorney and see if this is even an option. But for me, if we were to take that tasting room out and maybe do a continuance to reread the second reading or whatever we need to do, I can support this. I am so nervous. When you've lived through, is anybody here from Jax Beach in 1976? Did you live here? See, we've lost all the history, and there's
Maybe they'll be in on it.
yeah, Medfield again. There's some philosopher way back in the 1800s, I think, made the statement, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I'm concerned terribly that this is the first step in the wrong direction. So unless we can get a continuance, unless we can make some kind of a modification, so let me say also, there's no doubt in my mind that Void Magazine is going to be successful. If you get successful and want to move to LA or Beverly Hills or New York, and you take that business away from that area, we're going to open it up today so the 600 Club can come back. That's my concern, is that we're making a long-term decision here, and also for those of us that lived here back then, it's a scary time, and the thought of even taking one step back in that direction, it frightens me. So I'm going to not support this unless we can come to some kind of an agreement on the language that would prohibit bars from coming into the area after the tap room or after Void were to move out, and also to eliminate the tap room so there's no alcohol being sold on the premises for consumption on premises. Thank you. And Ms. Golding, I think you're next.
My concern is the bar, lounge, nightclub addition to the land development code. I understand it is a conditional use, and it can be denied by the planning commission, but I'm concerned that we're opening a door that we shouldn't be opening, and if we want to modify the land development code to be a little more specific and not be including bar, nightclub, lounge, then I could support that. But I do not like the fact that we are adding bar, nightclub, and lounge to the land development code. So I would like to consider addressing that and seeing if we could move forward with something that would not be opening doors to things that we don't want to have in that area again.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Doherty?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, I get what the people that spoke against it are saying. However, I don't see why we should penalize the applicant for shortcomings in our land development code. We've all been told it's not a nightclub, it's not a bar, it's not a lounge. They're not permitted to sell hard liquor. Their license wouldn't permit that, so we're not talking about this type of establishment. And we need to look at it for what it is on face value. The tasting room is a small area, I believe 800 square feet of a building that is 3,000 or more square feet. So it's not going to be the primary source of income. So I concur that, yeah, I don't even have to go back to 77. When I first came here, that area was still, there was, as the gentleman mentioned, like crack houses and a lot of crime there. It has come a long way. But one thing we have to consider as well is that these people are actually residents too, and they're putting their name and their livelihood on the line to try and open a business here and stay in our community. So, Mr. Sorrell said it best when he mentioned the language of the zoning. I'm not comfortable doing bar, lounge, bar, whatever, nightclub. But we're not talking about that here. We're talking about people putting in a microbrewery. So if we want to look at it, if we want to look at the land development code, I think we should, and I think that's a good idea. But in this instance, I don't think it's relevant to this application. So I don't see why we would hold up their progress because of the nuances of English language. I still fully support. There's nothing changed in my mind since the first application, nothing. Except that we need to address our land development code, not the application that's in front of us. So I'm still going to vote for it. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mott?
Thank you. I measured the square footage, because we're not voting on Void's business operating in here. We're voting on changing the land development code so we can have a 600 Club 2.0. And they would be able to operate in that zone, which is supposed to be the buffer zone between the bars and the residential neighborhoods. I calculated the square footage. The total area is 570,546. That means, and if you're looking at how far bars have to be apart from each other, there would be room for a bar to open up on the far end of this zoning district. And I know in the last meeting we said, well, it's pretty much blocked out and this could be the only alcohol establishment in the area, but it's not. And when we look at the zone, when we look at what the Planning Commission has to take into consideration, on this body, we get to kind of vote how we feel, if we like things. On the Planning Commission, you have a very strict criteria on why you can deny applications. And if Mangoes 2 or a 600 Club 2.0 decides that it wants to operate on the far end of that district and it can meet all those criteria, or if the residents don't come out to note concerns, then the Planning Commission has to approve it. That, and the Planning Commission, while it's conditional use, tends not to put a lot of conditions on applications. It changes depending on who's on the Planning Commission, but it just tends not to place a lot of conditions even on conditional use applications, because then you're interfering with the flow of business. And I understand that argument, but it's a conditional use application so people can have conditions. I think his business idea is great. It's fabulous, it's going to succeed. But as Mayor Latham said, that, you know, if you succeed that in like LA's calling, and you go out there, then our land development code still says that bars, nightclubs, taverns, and other drinking establishments can operate there in that area. And even if we had a 600 Club open up on the far end, 600 Club 2.0, on the far end of that, then we could have another one open up on the east side of that zoning district. So I'm looking at the larger concerns, which is changing the zoning. I do have a question for the city attorney. I know that if we want to upgrade the definition of microbrewery to microbrewery and tasting room, that has to go from the Planning Commission. So process-wise, I have a couple questions. One, can we just start initiating that here, or does it have to go back to the Planning Commission, go through there, and then 2 readings here? The second piece is, if this were to be approved and then with no due haste, the Planning Commission immediately jumps on changing and updating the definition, are any other ones grandfathered in to be able to be a bar, nightclub, a tavern, or other drinking establishment within that area?
First of all, let me address, I think there might be some confusion over what's on the table here today. What's on the table is not the proposal by Mr. Wallace for what he ultimately wants to do with his business. We're not even there yet. You correctly pointed out that what is on the table is a quasi-legislative act to expand uses within the CS district, which would be to allow nightclubs, bars, etc. Not to just allow a tasting room. We're not even there yet. So you're correct that the vote today would be to expand alcohol uses into a district where they were not previously allowed. The same would be true for microbrewery. Those two, the proposal on the table today is to allow those two by conditional use. And you pointed out correctly that conditional uses go before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission has to follow a set criteria, and if they deny that criteria, then the city could be sued, and sometimes we are sued, and that is expensive for the taxpayer. So the issue on the table today is to change your code to allow for 3 differences in this district. The first one is newspaper and magazine publishing. That would be allowed by right. And the conditional uses would be microbrewery and bar, lounge, nightclub, tavern, or other drinking establishment. So this is not about a tap room at all. Once we go through this, let's say if you vote this up, then this applicant could go forward, but other applicants could go forward and apply for nightclubs, and then they would have to do that through the conditional use process. So your second question had to do with if you wanted to make a change to the text of the code that might meet what ultimately this applicant wants to apply to do, you would have to go back to the Planning Commission. One of the options available to you, if that's something that you all are interested in, is this board can vote for a continuance, and then you could give direction maybe to the Planning Commission that you would like to see a text change in our code to add a definition for a tasting room. But that would have to go back to the Planning Commission. So that would be a delay. You could, one option you have would, if you're not troubled by the microbrewery and the publishing issue, but you are troubled by the bar nightclub addition to this district, you could vote to delete the bar nightclub and approve the microbrewery and approve the publishing language, and then give direction to staff to add to an application to the text, the definition section, to add a definition for a tasting room. And you could make that a small percentage of a microbrewery or a large percentage, but you could give direction to staff to go that route. Those are the options available to you. You can move for a continuance. The applicant can move for a continuance. If you do, under the code, we have to set a date certain for when we would proceed. Did that answer your questions?
Yes, it did, very efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nichols.
I guess my question had to do more with, everyone kept saying if they moved to LA or whatever, which, I mean, they're very good guys, but I have a feeling they're going to be in this community for a very long time. They all have families here, and you know, the way that I see that location, I mean, their families are going to be there and be a part of it. I'm extremely apprehensive about the wording in this, in the ordinance, and you know, but back to that, I think that if they're approved at this point, it's non-transferable if they leave. I mean, they can't sell the building. I mean, somebody would have to come back in front of the planning committee in order to be able to have this reapproved, correct?
So we're not approving a conditional use today, so that's not even on the table. What's on the table is whether you would expand the text of our code to allow for these additional uses.
Well, I guess if this is approved and they have to go back and they do get approval from the planning committee, that is not a tacit approval indefinitely for that piece of property to have this. I mean, that's the question on this.
That would be correct. You would still have other applicants who could apply to do these uses in this zone, but, and we're getting ahead of ourselves by going to the next step. But let's assume that this legislation passes and then this applicant goes to the Planning Commission, because only the Planning Commission decides on conditional uses. Then the conditional uses, let's say if they were approved, would be limited to this applicant.
But at this point in time, we do have the ability to modify or request the city or the planning to modify and take out nightclub and some of the other wording in there that may not be acceptable.
That would be one amendment that would be doable tonight.
Okay.
So that would allow the applicant for the text change to have the microbrewery and to have the publishing office type business that they propose. And then down the road, if this council likes the concept, they can give direction to staff to address coming up with a definition for a tasting room, which would meet what the applicant is telling us they're interested in doing.
Ms. Golding, quick revisit?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that I looked at the CS1 district, and it is possible that there could be another business that comes in and requests conditional use to be an alcohol establishment. So, that is definitely, my feelings are no reflection on the proposal that Boyd is trying to bring to that location. It's strictly about the text amendment itself and the door that we're opening to allow other businesses to come into the area and do, have a bar or a lounge or a nightclub in another location besides the one that is being proposed. So, I just wanted to clarify that. I could support removing the language, the bar, lounge, nightclub language, and moving forward in that way.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Doherty, quick revisit?
Yeah, so I think we're in danger of getting a bit hysterical up here. I'm surprised you didn't mention this, but there is a cap to the number of bars and nightclubs that the city of Jacksonville Beach can permit. It's a licensing thing. So even if, and this is the thing about the language, even if we were to vote the way it is, without altering the language, it doesn't mean that straight away a bar is going to go in there, because there are no licenses available. So a bar would have to close where there's a bar now. They'd have to transfer the license in order for it to become a nightclub or a place that primarily sells liquor. And I thought that at the first meeting, somebody mentioned about adjusting the text, and we were told that, maybe I'm not remembering it right, but we were told that that's the way it's written, so this is why we had to vote. Because I want a nightclub there. I do not want a nightclub there.
We don't either. Yeah.
We don't either. I know, that's the whole thing, so, so you're saying, oh, we can amend the language, which I have before, but I mean, I think we're really convoluted in this process.
Okay, the application is from, I'm sorry, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the company. I'm going to call you Boyd Magazine. Gold Brand. And they did the application themselves. This didn't come from staff, but, and they went with the language in our code. And even though there is a limit of how many bars we can have, the language also speaks to other drinking establishments, and that could include what we call rhinos, restaurants in name only that sell a lot of alcohol. So,
which we don't permit. That's the rhinos, not
right.
A registered list or permitted use for any business. That's people who break the law. Which just brings it back to the point about alcohol. Our issue in our city is that people do not dispense alcohol or do not play by the rules, and that's what we're seeing. Some of the major issues we've had. If people adhere to the terms of their license, we would have a lot less issues. But as you mentioned, the rhinos out there, that's a very unfortunate side effect of the community we live in. But it's not up to us to enforce it. That's on state level. In fact, I'd love to be able to enforce it, but we can't. So if we can take out the liquor aspect of this, and remember, here's another thing about liquor laws. There's an ABC liquor right close to these guys, so I don't know if another liquor place would be permitted in that area because of ABC's license. If somebody was to close a bar and move it there. So, but if you want to remove the liquor aspect of the wording, I'm fully for it, because I know this is not what these guys are after. So, yeah.
Thanks. We'll look for a motion here in a minute and let everybody else finish their points. Mr. Mott, quick revisit.
Yes, so if we were to strike bar, nightclub, tavern, other drinking establishment from the code and leave microbrewery in, would the applicant and then planning commission adds to the definition of microbrewery to include a tasting room? would the applicant, would Bold Brands then need to go back in front of the planning commission? Because he would, technically, they'd be approved under the old definition of a microbrewery, which is just the brewing without the tasting room. So would the applicant then have to come back in front of the planning commission once the microbrewery update, definition was updated, and have to apply again to be able to serve his beer?
I would, this is like a law school exam test, you all. You could change the language. What I'm hearing you say is you would be interested in adding to microbrewery with or without a tasting room, is that what you said?
Correct, so it would be a microbrewery and tasting room, because usually the microbrewery has the tasting room there. You don't have a tasting room without the microbrewery.
Yeah,
So they're kind of connected.
I don't know if you do, or I don't know enough about that business, but I would think the better language would be microbrewery with or without a tasting room. You can have that legislation, but then you're definitely going to need to have staff amend the text, bring an application to the planning commission to amend the text of the definitions to add a definition for a tasting room.
Okay.
And that might resolve the ultimate concern of
everyone. But then does the applicant then have to pay another application fee to be able to operate a tasting room attached to his microbrewery?
Well, I'm going to have staff answer that because I think they would have to apply for conditional use. Do they pay a fee for that?
Actually, through the staff, or through the chair, building and planning director, it depends on how you remand it to the planning commission. If you remand it back to the planning commission with a recommended amendment, then it would still be the applicant's original application under his $1,000 filing fee. We would pay for the advertisement, but the planning commission would consider it, and my only question is whether or not it would come back for 2 readings at council, or since it was, well, it would be amended, so it would come back for 2 more readings at council. It could still be on the same dime, as it were. It wouldn't have to be a brand new application. And I don't really think it would necessarily be staff initiated anyway, because if you can get the applicant to agree with it and it furthers their plan, I think it would actually be more correct to have the applicant supportive of, okay, we're agreeing to take back our amended application to the planning commission. That makes sense? And then we would just, staff would pay for our budget, we would pay for the advertising cost.
So you're suggesting that they would delete subsection 7 and then add to microbrewery with or without a tasting room?
Actually, yeah, what the proposed amendment would be to modify the definition of microbrewery to include with or without tap room, and then separately to approve a new definition for tap room, which could include hours of operation, tasting room, tap room. The semantics would be borne out by whatever that definition is. You could get limitation, just like we do for outside seating, by percentage of area, or if you want to hold them to 800 feet like the applicant wants, that, some type of standards could be within that definition of tap room.
Yeah, but we need to focus on other applicants, not just this applicant and this.
Right.
So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How we do it typically for outdoor seating as an example, it's a percentage of the inside area.
Right.
So if you wanted to compute it, basically the only reason I'm using this is the only example I've got, is they've got X square footage of a brewery and they want 800 square feet in a tap room, whatever that percentage is. If that's amenable, that could be the standard. Or if you don't want it that big, you could suggest a smaller standard. As long as the wording gets back to city council that at least these are the parameters of the amendment, the tweaking of that up and down 25%, we want to make it 11, we want to make it till 9, that could be amended on the floor and wouldn't have to go back to the planning commission. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I guess I'd like just a little clarification here for the process. So what you're talking about is...
Mr. Mont, I'm sorry, you're out of order. We've got a couple in the queue. Just light your light and I'll get back to you.
I thought I was still on.
Oh, I thought you were finished. I apologize. Go ahead.
It's just for a process orientation here. So what you're suggesting is the applicant pull his application? Or are you suggesting that what you just said can be done with us removing bar, nightclub, tavern, other drinking establishment from the proposal that's in front of us now? I'm trying to figure out a way that we could make everybody kind of happy, but it's not going to cost $1,000 for another application.
That was my point. I think the council could make the motion to remand it back to the planning commission ask the applicant if they're amenable to that. If they are, then it'd go forth, just like I said. It would go back, you get an amendment to the definition of microbrewery to include with or without tap room, tasting room, whichever you want to call it. And then we would create a new definition for tap room, tasting room. As long as we get some substantive wording for those definitions and the planning commission makes a recommendation on it, then it could come back to council if you want to tweak it, or maybe even the planning commission would tweak what staff comes up with. You'll have the opportunity to massage it, but I think everybody will get what they want.
That would work. That would work if the applicant would be comfortable with it. Otherwise, out of fairness to the applicant, we would need to vote tonight or continue tonight if they're not comfortable with that.
Can I speak as applicant there?
Just a second.
Sorry.
Okay, are you done, Ms. Lamont?
Yeah.
Okay. Ty, if you would just give me, we got one more, or two more cues on board. We'll get back to you here and I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Ms. Hoffman?
Thank you.
Mr. Mann, can't we do that after the fact? Instead of penalizing this particular applicant, and I understand and I acknowledge a potential slippery slope argument, and I understand that, but we know, and I think a lot of us feel good about this particular applicant. Who knows, I mean, I don't want to penalize this applicant for the fact that we haven't kept up with our land development code, and we've got multiple breweries and tasting rooms in our community, and I think that this would give us an opportunity to take a good look at that, update it, and then retroactively go back and update the conditional uses in CS zone. Would that not be an option? And that way we don't hold them up from being able to implement their business plan?
If you did that and they were the first applicant to come back as conditional use approval, they would have that broad spectrum of being bar, nightclub, drinking, whatever the code says.
But only they would, not everybody else.
And as a conditional use, the first opportunity for a conditional use would be by the applicant. The planning commission could narrow down that, limited to, that may be the basis for whatever the definition of tap room becomes. So otherwise, if you don't put those conditions on it, they would be grandfathered in. They'd still have to get conditional use approval. Whatever they were approved for would not be automatically transferable. But as long as you came back fairly quickly with whatever the amendment we were talking, that process we were going through, then anybody else would be bound by the new criteria.
So we'd have to have some faith that they are being upfront with the fact that they want to close at 10, they don't want to serve liquor, that they would stay in that traditional definition of a tap room as we would see it.
The staff report would make it very clear of what the discussion was at council and why they were going back to the planning commission, and there would be a suggestion of certain conditions of approval. And I'm just saying, as I'm thinking right now, that's probably going to start framing what we would want the definition of a tap room to be from a staff perspective, just to get it back before first the planning commission and the city council.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Vogelsang, quick revisit.
I make an amendment motion to strike through number 7 in our proposal, with the understanding that we will give direction to the planning commission for further definition of microbrewery to include the potential of them to have a tap room, and we can then staff will work toward a definition of a tap room / tasting room for the purposes of a microbrewery having that option.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Ty, before we vote on it, do you want a second, or it's a little like unorthodox to bring you up here in the middle of a, but I mean, if you feel compelled to say something.
I just have one quick note that we do have Ty Wallace, back up here. A 90-day due diligence on the property, so the timeline is a huge issue for us, and again, we're already putting ourselves out there financially, so the timeline is extremely important.
Let me ask you a question, since you brought that up. Could you move forward without, you plan your tap room, but it could potentially be a nursery or something like that down the line? Could that keep, in other words, if just the tap room were the issue, would you still want to continue to move forward? Or do you need that tap room to execute your plan?
I need the tap room to execute the plan as part of the financial plan that will go forth to deliver.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, got a motion on the floor and a second. Any additional discussion? Madam Clerk? Do you have an amended motion ready?
I have it on the record.
I'm sorry?
I have it on the record.
Okay, could you read it again, please?
I'm going to play it back.
Okay, we'll just play it back.
I can just say it. The motion is to strike through number 7 on the conditional use. which says bar, lounge, nightclub, tavern, or other drinking establishment, with the understanding that we would recommend to the planning commission to provide an updated definition of microbrewery to include with or without the use of a tasting room / tap room.
Okay. And Mrs. Hoffman, you're comfortable with that as your second? Is that your, Ms. Dumont? Okay. Any other discussion from the council on the amendment? Madam Clerk, get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffman. Yes. Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang.
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Demott,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes. Now, is there anything else we need to do with it? Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna be voting on the agenda item as modified by Mr. Vogelsang. Is there any additional discussion from the council? Ms. Dumont?
I'd just like to state that I know that this is all in your package, but we, with all due haste, the planning commission's really got to get on top of this, update that microbrewery definition, do the tap room. So I'm not saying that it would necessarily inhibit you guys from moving forward. It's just going to be like another month or two because we have to get through the holidays and all that stuff. But this is the cleanest way for us to go forward to protect the neighborhoods, as well as what your business model is. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hoffman. Yes. Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogelsang.
Yes.
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Demott,
Yes.
Councilmember Golding,
Yes.
Mayor Latham.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a blessed and happy Christmas, Hanukkah, and all the other holidays.